Mr. Prime Minister, I'm Rebecca Jones, counsel for former Chief Sloly. And you've testified today about the situation facing the country and the city of Ottawa in particular when the Emergencies Act was invoked, right? And this included threats of violence, trucks with weapons in Coots, trucks with unknown contents in Ottawa, and children in Ottawa at the site of the occupation, right?
Yes.
And Chief Sloly described the situation in Ottawa as a tinderbox, and I take it you'd agree with that.
Yes, that was one of our concerns, that it could get worse very quickly.
Right. There was always a risk of escalation.
Yes.
And you testified that it is the responsibility of the Prime Minister to make tough calls and keep people safe, right?
Yes, and others as well, but yes, that is one of the roles of the Prime Minister.
It's not your only responsibility. I take it that is also the role of a police chief.
Yes.
And the Prime Minister and a police chief don't take steps just because people are demanding them, right?
We certainly need to take into account the perspective and concerns and expectations of citizens. That's an important input into leadership. But ultimately, we have to, getting the decision right is more important than making the popular decision.
Right. And you testified that as of the date of the Emergencies Act, the fact that there had not yet been any serious violence was obviously a good thing, but that you couldn't say there was no threat of that, right?
Indeed.
And I'm going to suggest that the fact that there had been no serious violence was not only a good thing, but it was a credit to municipal police forces, all police forces, Chief Sloly, and all of his policing partners.
Yes, and a credit to residents, and a credit to people who were there on the ground. There was no violence. It would have taken one person on any side to create situations of violence. So it is fortunate that there was no violence, no significant violence at that point,
right,
or at any point.
And it is to the credit of the police, among others, that there was no serious violence, right?
I'm not positioned to evaluate how much what the police did or didn't do in Ottawa was directly responsible for the lack of violence.
Okay. Now, in 2021, then Chief Sloly was invited to the Prime Minister's listening circle to speak about policing reforms. You remember that?
I do.
And Mr. Prime Minister, you thanked him for his presentation and you thanked him for his leadership in leading police reform in Canada, right?
Yes.
And I take it you agree that it's important to have voices like Peter Sloly's at the table in Canadian policing.
You mean diverse Canadians in positions of power?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. And the convoy-related events across Canada in late January and February of this year, I take it you'll agree with me, they were a trauma for the nation.
They were certainly a very challenging time, and many Canadians experienced them as trauma, yes.
Right. And this trauma landed more heavily on the shoulders of certain individuals, like Chief Sloly and his family, than on others. Is that fair?
I think there was a lot of trauma to go around on all sides.
Now, I want to return in the time I have left to the issue of the readiness of the operational plan as of February 13th. And you've been candid in acknowledging that you didn't read the operational plan on February 13th, which of course makes sense.
That I wasn't given the operational plan of.
And nor would you expect to be.
That's right.
Okay. And you can't comment on whether or not it was a good or complete plan, you testified.
I can't comment from personal knowledge, but my understanding both at the time and subsequently from people who are aware of the plan was that it was not a complete plan.
Okay, so we're going to have to put aside subsequently. It was the plan that cleared the occupation in Ottawa is the evidence here. But at the time...
Sorry, that was a plan of the 17th that cleared the occupation, not the plan of the 13th.
Well, we'll put that aside. We will disagree on that issue, Mr. Prime Minister. But what I believe you're saying is that at the time, on February 13th, or as of February 13th, that was your view. Based on what you were being told, I take it, by the Commissioner of the RCMP.
Sorry, what was my view? That the plan was
The plan wasn't ready.
Yes.
Okay.
That was my view.
And I just want to take you, please, to TRN 23, page 69, please. And Mr. Prime Minister, this is the testimony of Commissioner Lucky before this inquiry. I believe it may be page 69 in the PDF. There we are. And so if you start scrolling down, you'll see that Commission Council is asking about the status of the plan, and please, of course, take your time to read it, as of February 13th. And you will see that Commissioner Lucky confirms, yes, that was when it was completed. And that would be on February 13th. And then Commission Council says, and we've heard some evidence about this from other police agencies, but essentially that it was a team effort. The RCMP was there, the OPP, and the OPS. Correct? And Commissioner Lucky says yes. And Commission Council says, and I understand it, you in particular, Commissioner Lucky, and perhaps the rest of your team who looked at it, were generally satisfied with the plan as an operational plan to deal with the situation in Ottawa. And Commissioner Lucky says, yes, both myself and Commissioner Carrique were briefed on the plan the Friday before that. Like I think it was around February 11th, we got the actual briefing from the planners on the plan. And yes, we were satisfied with the plan. Okay, so I put that to you, Mr. Prime Minister, to suggest that what happened here was that you were not briefed by Commissioner Lucky on the 13th as to her satisfaction and the RCMP's satisfaction on the integrated plan to clear Ottawa.
I can only speak to what I both knew then and what I know now. What I knew then was what my understanding was then was that there was not a complete plan or a workable or operational plan to clear Ottawa at that point. And I now know that indeed there was not a plan on that weekend.
Mr.
And I
Prime
can't
Minister,
speak to what people said.
It's important that we stick with what you understood on February 13th.
Yes.
Okay?
So what I understood then was that there was not an adequate plan.
And I hear you on that. What I'm suggesting to you, based on what you've seen, was Commissioner Lucky's evidence that there's a disconnect here. And perhaps what happened, and I'm going to suggest what happened, is that Commissioner Lucky didn't brief you and your cabinet on the fact that there was a complete plan on the 13th.
I can't comment on that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Next, call on the City of Windsor, please.